So let's talk about some trends for 2024. Some things that we are seeing. 2023 was is a really crazy year from a technology perspective. I think you open your fridge, you're gonna find AI inside. So there's AI everywhere. So we need to talk about this. So one of the things that we're seeing in the trends, we're talking about the multi-vendor architecture and the power of Python as a protagonist in this next level. So I'm going to share a little bit of context about that and talk about what we are seeing globally when we're talking about customers and users around the world. So the first thing that's really important is when you talk about hyperautomation by Gartner definition, we are talking a broadly compound of tools, right? So talking about RPA, IDP, integration, APIs, IPAS, process orchestration, process mining, and now when talking about AI and machine learning, now we're talking about generative AI as well. And here is the deal. Python is the ultimate enabler for all of this. Because when you're talking about Gen AI integrations or machine learning projects, everything that needs to be done in low code was already built in Python. So why not switch to Python? So this is a really this AI wave that is taking us to a new future now is really put Python as a protagonist more and more in hyper automation operations. So globally, what we are seeing is a trend, clear trend for multi-vendor architecture. So when we talk about multi-vendor architecture, we're talking about coexisting low-code tools with Python automations as well. So to be really clear here, our goal is not to say one tool is better than another, but the best tool is that one that's gonna suit you better for your use case, right? But as the market gets more maturity on technology, companies are thinking about not to be locked in just one vendor. And it's really interesting to have a portfolio of technologies so you can really have a toolbox to tackle different problems with different users and different use cases. So one of the reasons about this multi-vendor architecture trend, the first one is the advent of AI, but the second one is the licensing cost and the locking. So when you build something in a low code RPA platform, you are building something proprietary technology. So you are locked in pricing, you are locked in high licensing costs. And that's something that's kind of crazy in RPA because if you implement a process with huge licensing costs, but you save a lot of money, on the first year, you are forgiven because you save a lot of money. But the year two, someone starts asking you, how about this licensing cost? And you're going to answer, hey, I saved a lot of money last year. Okay, but this was last year. How about this year? So in this economic environment, companies are starting to thinking about, hey, do I need to pay this much for licensing costs? How about open source alternatives? How about Python alternatives? So that's one of the trends of multi-vendor architecture. The second one, we're talking about scalability and performance. So when you compare low code automations with Python, if you already built that, made experiments, this is customer data, automations can be from 3 to 20 times faster. And we're talking about scalability. You saw what Hugo showed you, and you can see our data pool if you want in our documentation. So you have much more power to make parallel executions, and there's a different models work. But the problem with the Python in the past, when if you're talking about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, companies were not using Python a lot in RPA because there was a lack of governance. So you don't have governance, you don't have control, you don't have orchestration, and we solved that. So Bot City solved the problem in orchestration and governance. So it's not a problem anymore. So we opened the window for this multi-vendor architecture. And then the last one that I think is really important. Sometimes we got some questions say, hey, but it's kind of difficult to find developers. So I think it's better to use low code because I don't need developers. Every single company that knows that scaled RPA, they have developers inside. They have developers working even with no code platforms. So you already have developers in place and you are given the wrong tool for developers. So The best way the companies are evolving right now, they have low code platforms to empower business users for their use case on task level, on department level. And you have developers working with Python and orchestrating with Bot City for critical operations and enterprise wide operations. So this way you can save a lot of money because you can mix balancing the licensing. The licensing cost is totally different model from one platform to another, and you have tools for everyone. You can really get what it matters, make your company more efficient. So what you're saying here is like the low code, they lift their automation off the ground. So if you think about two-stage rocket, right? So the first stage took off the ground with the low code operations. But what will really launch you to the next phase will be Python and AI. And Bot City will be there to provide the developer tools and the orchestration as well. So what we provide right now from productivity level, we're talking about frameworks, libraries, the plugins, document processing, computer vision to Python Studio. And then on governance and orchestration, we talk about the agents, orchestration, data pool, bot sitting sites, and we have the academy and support, global academy, and a global partners network. And talking about a global partners network, we are dealing with several companies globally. They like the model, they like the Python, but sometimes their team they need more support, they need partners to implement. So we are growing our partners network that's present now in us, Europe, India, and Latin America. So we are growing this partners network. So if you are a company that's get inquiries about the customers asking, hey, how about Python, please reach out to us. We can be partners and we can give you good support, technical support, commercial support, to make things happen on Python and provide a new generation for automations for our customers as well and make them avoid lock-in. And finally, you have projects that you don't spend half of the budget with licensing. You spend the budget with services, with a better licensing model and a more fair licensing model. So this new trend right now is on multi-vendor architecture is happening everywhere and is a clear trend of any technology that gets to maturity.